In this video, I will provide you with a couple of methods that can be used to build a fence for your backyard, your property line, with rebar and lumber. And the first thing I want to point out is that I am remaking this video. I believe it is the first video I have ever removed from my channel. And I appreciate the man who, or the person who commented and said that the bottom board, the way I had it designed before, the bottom board would sag eventually and create a problem. So thank you for pointing that out. Now, the first thing you will need to do will be to install your fence posts, and I like to use concrete for my footings. I know some people just like to bury them in the ground. Well, knock yourself out. I'm not going to provide you with step-by-step instructions how to build something like this, but I'm going to give you a generalized idea, something that you'll be able to use just in case you're looking for some ideas. So let's go ahead and put our first panel in. There it is, second panel. Don't you wish you could build things like this, just kind of like pop, there it is, another section done. And the reason why I'm kind of doing this is because these sections will be similar or exactly the same. If you space your fence posts exactly apart, the same measurement, then you shouldn't have a problem building all the panels exactly the same. And I wouldn't recommend cutting all of your lumber. You know, I'm going to cut all my lumber the same size, and assuming that these will be in the same spot, they might move a little bit, so always measure twice. Can't stress that enough for something like this. And your panels will basically have two boards that are the same size or the same length. And then the top board will be a little longer because it's going to go on top. If you are going to lower this, you can make all three of your boards the same length. But if you're going to put it on top, the top one will need to be a little longer. Now you can space the bars however far apart you want to. Our bars are spaced 7 3/4 of an inch, actually 7.7 of an inch as in the decimal. And you might want to consider local building codes. Some building codes require that there cannot be a 4-inch space as the maximum. So 3 7/8 of an inch spacing in between the bars might actually be the maximum spacing that you're allowed for something like this. So keep that in mind also. Check with your local building authorities before you get carried away and build a fence that you're going to have to tear down or modify. That's always a good idea. So in order to figure out the spacing, we actually have 11 bars, and I forget the space here, the length, but you need to keep in mind that 11 bars is going to provide you with 12 spaces, and this is actually the number you're going to use to divide into the distance between the posts to get the spacing. And of course that will be on center spacing also. If you're off a little bit, probably isn't going to be that big of a deal, but it depends on how much of a perfectionist you are, of course. And you can see here where you can, all of the holes line up with the rebar. See another view of it there. Now, to give you a better idea how you can figure something like this out and how you can put the marks on your board, let's go ahead and get a new 2x4 and set it next to the existing one. Then we'll get rid of the fence here and focus on this. And again, you can see we already have the holes drilled in this one, already spaced. You're going to want to draw a line down the center. Now, keep in mind that you might not want to draw a line if this is going to be exposed wood. So if this is going to be the bottom of your board or the top of the board where somebody's not going to be seeing it, then fine. But if not, pencil marks might be a difficult thing to get rid of. You know, you find yourself out here with a sander getting rid of this stuff. So you might just want to mark each individual spot so that when you drill through it, you don't have any pencil marks or lines on your board. Hope that makes sense. And again, Our spacing was 7.7 for each one of these. And then the distance between here, since it's a 2x4, 3.5 inches, this would be 1 3/4 inches to the center. If, of course, that's where you want to put it in the center. You can always move it over a little bit depending upon your design. Then we will go ahead and drill our holes and get rid of our lines, of course. Don't have to worry about it on the computer, but in the field it'll be a little different. When you have a nice line right here, especially if you use a permanent marker, that could be even worse. So hopefully this is starting to make sense here. So everything lines up. These holes have got to be in the same spot on every board in order to have everything nice and straight. Now let's go ahead and put one section together. We will start with a 4x4 on the bottom. Again, you can always use a larger board, 4x6, 6x6. And remember, this board is going to be supporting the rebar. So you're going to drill a hole into this about 3/4 of an inch or an inch. You're not going to drill your holes all the way through like you would here. And remember, or keep in mind that you can always drill your holes on the top. They don't have to go all the way through either. You can set everything up to where the top board will set on top of these rebar, and then you will not have any holes on the top surface here. You would just drill your holes in from the bottom about 3/4 of an inch. So this board again will have holes drilled all the way through, and then you can place your rebars in, finish placing them in, and then you can set your top board on. So that would basically be a simple assembly for something like this. Now I wanted to point out, give you an idea, this is the way I had the fence originally built. And the individual pointed out that this, a 2x4, very good chance it's going to sag. Even if you turn the 2x4 or you rotate it 90 degrees, you think, hey, I'm going to create a stronger fence. I've seen these sag a lot. 3/4 of an inch is nothing for this to sag with the weight of the fence. So this was the original design, and this is basically the improvement that I made to create a larger, or to use a larger piece of lumber on the bottom for a support. Now I do have a couple of more things you can do. You can just use a regular 2x4 and install another footing. Something like this might work. You can always let the rebar run all the way down to the ground. Use a 2x4 and then drill your holes through this board and then let it go down to the ground. Now the problem with this, I think over time, you could have the rebar could actually settle into the dirt. Well, if it settles into the dirt or moves down more than 1.5 inches, you're going to have loose rebar at the top. I don't think that's going to be a big deal. You could simply pull them back up and put some dirt under there, and then that might be good for a couple of years, but at least I wanted to make you aware of that. So here's the original design. This is the original design of the fence that I found. It had rebar going all the way through to the ground and sticking up past the top rail. And this, of course, design here will allow the rebars to settle into the ground a little bit without creating too much of a problem. The only thing I don't like about this is the fact that it's got dangerous spears at the top. If anyone was to climb over this fence, they could be seriously injured. Now let's take a look at our next suggestion. You could always pour a concrete curb, something like this, set the rebar in. That way it's not going to be settling into the ground. And another thing you can do will be to put a cap on top of it. So if you do have the rebars and you drill the hole all the way through, but you want to cover it up, then put a 1x4 or 1x6. You can always use something a little larger there. And maybe a 1x6 if you're using 2x4, give you another design, or even put a 2x6 on the top of it. So anyway, I hope this video is better than the last one. If it is, vote with your thumbs up or thumbs down. For those of you who do thumbs down the video, it is nice. And I realize that people just don't have the time. You watch one of these videos, it's 10 minutes. and you're like, I'm off to the next video. But it helps me make better videos. Even the person who took the time to share the comment that my design was crappy and needed to be modified. And again, you see any problems with these designs, let me know. I probably won't be removing the video this time, but at least I can make another video or something to point it out. So if you have a problem with the video, help me out. Provide me with a reason why. If you don't want to leave a comment, you can always email it to me. Email me a problem with a video or something like that. So that will be greatly appreciated. A lot more appreciated than just thumbs downing the video.